It's a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say, is even harder to find. Well, then there must be some magic clue inside these gentle walls. 'Cause all I see is a tower of dreams, real love bursting out of every scene. Days go by. It's the bigger love of the family.
All right, welcome everybody. Ho, that's old stuff. Let me get that off the screen. How'd that happen? That's not supposed to be. Give me 1 second here. There we go. There we go. Hold on. There we are. It took a
Yeah,
second. What's up, everybody? Welcome to
what's
the
going
cookout.
on?
Welcome to the cookout. Now we're still waiting for two crew members, Alandis Powell and Cedric Denson. I was just communicating with Alandis and just a little snafu with the link. Hopefully she'll be joining us very, very shortly. I may have to jump out for a second, Kevin, if you can hold the conversation down. But so you see our crew today. Hey, what's up, Terrace? Brother Dre, Kevin Aldridge, myself, Alandis Powell, and Cedric Denson. And hopefully they'll be joining us very, very shortly. Came up with something different. I realized, we got all black folks on today. So let's do a show within the show. We're calling it the Cookout Edition, where, we showcase the diversity of opinions within the black community, within black voices. So all are welcome. Come on in, grab a seat, grab a plate. Don't be shy. We're all friends. We all cousins in them. And let's get started. So let's just get started. And that gives me a chance to step away, Kevin, and just kind of work with Alandis to make sure she gets in. But I want to start with the election. Of course, it was a couple days ago. We haven't done a show since then. So I want to make sure that, we get our thoughts in. And you wrote a couple of pieces, but really interesting piece about the dynamic and the power of the Democrat slate. And, we had it wrong. I mean, we've talked since then, having some fun with it. I think we both were not surprised at all to see that everybody that the Democrats had on their slate was elected. But I don't know, maybe, Brother Dre, you were surprised. I'm not sure. But what does this say? Is this good or bad for Cincinnati? Or is this good or bad for black folks in particular? The facts that the Democrat slate is so powerful.
I would say, obviously, if you're a Democrat, you're probably not mad at the results. Maybe your preferred Democrat might not have gotten in, but I think if you are someone who wasn't a fan of having the alternative, a Republican or one of the charterites on there, you've got that Democratic majority there. Now, I'm one of those people who favors diversity across the board. I think diversity is an important thing, and diversity of thought, because I think that if everybody is singing with the choir, you don't always get the best ideas, or sometimes the ideas don't always get vetted with the critical nature that you sometimes get from people who don't think necessarily the same way that you do. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, but just like you said with the cookout here, we're all black on here and we have a diversity of thought. So just because they're all Democrats doesn't mean that you won't be able to find, some diversity within the way that this election of council will govern. I think what the bigger question is, in my mind, and I tried to touch on this in the column, is the power that this Democratic slate has, like it or not. And I think we all knew this, even though we were kind of playing around with the predictions on election day. We've talked numerous times on this podcast about the power of the Democratic slate and how people tend to follow that. And this election was no different. I think what's going to be interesting is someone asked me earlier in the week if I thought this would discourage other candidates from running. And I don't think that it will. I think you're always going to have people who are going to try to challenge the system and the democratic machine, so to speak. But I do think it's going to create an environment where now the real campaigning is going to be taking place for the Democratic endorsement. That I wouldn't be surprised if you saw people campaigning harder for the endorsement than they actually do, for votes around the city. So I think that'll be the interesting thing. And I don't know if that's good for Cincinnatians, that a small group of folks from the political machine are essentially deciding who's running our city. I don't know if that's a good thing.
I see Yolandis. Yolandis, can you hear us?
I can. I'm sorry. I'm showing my old ladyism. I couldn't get on here. It was my first time doing this. So sorry.
It's all good. I'm glad to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, for sure. And we're still waiting for Cedric Denson. I may be on and off trying to help him get connected just to make sure he joins. But I'm glad you're here. So we started talking about the election, and we're doing something special. So, Hot Mic is, where we bring divergent points of view on. We go hard. It gets passionate, but we always leave as friends and come back. Today, since there's nothing but black folks on here, I figured we do something called the Cookout Edition, where we highlight and showcase the diversity within our own community in terms of our opinions. So a little slightly something different in terms of the way we usually approach it. But what's your take? And then Brother Dre, your take as well on city council race. Seems like the Democrat slate is almighty, all powerful. Is this good or bad for black folks? Good or bad are black folks? Good or bad for the city in general?
I think it's bad. I think that anytime you don't have diversity in any way, it's not a good thing. I was hoping that someone with diverse opinions would be a part of the group to just help people think more, and actually you dig deeper when you're not all thinking the same. So I don't think that's a good thing, but I do think that the right mayor was selected based on who we had to choose from. I didn't agree with everyone that's a part of that was elected should have been on there, but just I think we need diversity in that group in a big way.
Okay. And what about black people? So you're saying a no for both the city and black folks, not a good thing?
No. Okay. I'm saying we're talking about the election.
Yeah,
right?
the election.
I think the election, when it comes to city council, we needed some diversity on there. I'm not talking about color. I could have done all black. I'm talking about Democrat, Republican, Independent, a difference in thought. I wasn't talking about the color piece.
Right.
I'm okay with it all being black people. You know me, I salute black folks, but there's some black Republicans as well. I'm not sure if any of you are Republicans. I don't get into them very much, but I still think that diversity of thought helps bring us to a better place. Like, we can't say that that's the right thing for corporate America and other places and not want it for our city too.
I get it. Brother Dre, what's your take?
Yeah, thank you, Sister Powell, for that. I'm going to go in agreement with you. Just one all-inclusive one way is not good. There's no diversity. It's almost that they're going to agree on everything. And I like constructive criticism. I mean, push me to be better. When I competed on a high level of bodybuilding, I know I was already winning with a company called Beverly International, who has turned out a lot of top-rated bodybuilders. But I ended up going with another team with Mike Davies because he said, you need to go on another level. And even when I saw him, he picked me apart and said, you need to work on certain areas in your physique. And so it did launch me into a higher category of competition. So just having a complete all Democrat who is going to push each other. So you see this can end up being a total disaster, and I don't see them elevating past what everybody wants on the same plate.
Now I know you weren't a big AFTAB guy. I know you was pushing for Corey Bauman. How you feel about that?
Well, I still don't like AFTAB being in place. I didn't like his approach to safety because he twisted his story around so many times. He said safety is his first, second, and third concern. And if we look at the entire process, we know that's not true. And when Sarah Herringer blew the map off of the statistics and the numbers, the whole process really changed. And we probably wouldn't even be talking about safety if she, in the tragedy that happened to her husband, didn't come to the forefront. I don't think we would even be having a conversation about public safety because it never came up. And then all of a sudden, here it is, one of the top things on the ballot and things that he's discussing. And I guarantee he's not going to do anything. But I am hearing some positive things about Chief Henney, which will be very, very interesting because he's already shifted the morale with the officers.
Yeah. Hey, I have a quick question because I might have missed something. So you were for Corey?
I was.
Okay. So that's strange if you ask me, but I get it. I don't get it, but I hear that. I will say that when it comes to pushing this group, it's up to us. So even though there's not diversity, I'm not going to say it's all gone because it's up to us to knock on the door. And tragedy was always a big deal on my plate. It wasn't a big deal on white people's plate, but it's been a big deal on my plate because we have been a part of it in such a big way. They became a part of it because they didn't like it in their community. But I don't want anyone getting killed in any community. And if it was happening in Avondale, we wouldn't be talking about it. And so that's my problem. So when you say that, I have to disagree because I think we own that as citizens. And I do think tragedy has been a big part. It's just white folks didn't care. And so that made it larger. That's just...
Well, I thank you for that, but just having almost close to 30 years of a police experience and doing a lot of policing around the city, one thing I can assure you is that if you even look at most of my videos, I've challenged Black leadership and about the killings that have happened to our communities and have spoken out extremely vocal about it. And what do you get? Crickets. You don't get any type of support from our Black leadership when young men and even young women are dying. We have over 50 bodies that are killed in Cincinnati. The majority, high percentage, 90% are Black, and we're not hearing anything. And so AFTAB and Chief Fiji gave Sarah Herringer an actual stage to present her information. And when she had that stage, she even stated that there are other neighborhoods that are not getting the same type of media play that I'm getting. And she admitted because she was white, she's getting the attention. And my point was, I didn't care that she was white. She's bringing light to the issues that are happening all over the city.
Yeah, and I wasn't pointing at you. I was actually just talking about what you said and disagreeing with people. I don't know your resume, so I wasn't talking about your 30 years at all. I was just talking about my perspective is that it became big when it included white people and it was downtown.
Yeah. And Brother Dre, you to Alondis's point, that's part of the problem. One, I don't think the violence in our city is a Black or a white issue. It's a Cincinnati issue. And when we start to take the bait of, just Black leaders or whatever need to speak out on this, that gives the majority community a pass on their piece in helping to figure this thing out. This is not just a Black problem to solve. This is a Cincinnati problem to solve. And I think when we try to put the responsibility on one person's plate to say, oh, Black leaders aren't saying anything. Well, why aren't white leaders saying anything? No offense to Ms. Herringer, but If she wasn't a victim of the crime, would she have been saying the same thing that she's saying now? No, probably not. So the reality is we need more in the majority community to step up, not just when it lands on their doorstep, but in general to talk about how do we get a handle on this violence. And so I think when we stop passing the buck and making it a purely a racial issue by talking about black on black crime or black criminals, whatever, we need to talk about criminals in general and attack these issues of crime. Until we do that, it's going to always be a divisive racial issue that's never going to get solved the way we need for it to get solved.
Well, let me ask you something, Kevin. Well, let me ask you, because here it is. When you fly an airplane and they say if it's going down, what do they tell you to do first? They said put your oxygen mask on first.
Absolutely.
And so we can't continue to look, say, Cincinnati issue when our own house is burning down and we're expecting somebody else to clean it up. And that's where, we can agree to disagree. But until we take care of our own house, I don't expect you to come over here and deal with my yard that may look a hot mess. I'm going to have to take priority and use the positions that we have to at least show that we have a unified voice. Because don't forget, Hope Dudley, who, as I call the pioneer of justice, when her son was brutally murdered, she has spoken out on many occasions, still is on the news doing a lot of great things. But at the same time, the mayor and the city manager didn't give her that same platform that they gave Sarah Herringer. And that's why leadership has to be consistent to make sure we highlight all of it, not just some of it, all of it. And that comes from our leadership.
Yeah, I hear you. I think I lean toward what Kevin was saying a bit more, just in the terms of like how we frame it. I don't think it's a black-white thing. I think it's a Cincinnati thing. I think it's an inequity thing. I think it's a long time neglect thing. And, if we keep trying to break this down by zip code, and I mean, I understand your point. Like on some levels, if certain things are happening in a certain zip code, then that zip code needs to address it. But this is a Cincinnati problem. And I still believe that, and I don't mean this to be insensitive, but I still think like a lot of that was overblown because people were taking advantage of it. Either they had an issue or trying to scale a score, or they wanted Corey Bowman to be elected. So it's like, oh, let's seize upon this. And I just feel like Cincinnati is dealing with the same issues and dealing with them better than a lot of cities are. And it's just easy to forget that when, you're seeing tragic headlines and the brawl and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah. I do think, Nate, that's part of the problem. I also think that the question we're not asking is what has been done and would it be even larger if some of the things the city was doing wasn't happening. I don't think they do a good job of PRing. I go to some of the things and you can't make kids show up. The other thing is we focus on kids because that feels good. You have to focus on parents. When you fix parents, you fix kids. We go around trying to fix kids because that feels better. Or we say adults should take care of their own stuff when that cannot be further from the truth. The other piece I'll say is that we all expect grace, and you can't get grace without giving grace. And in order to give grace, you first have to understand what people's been doing. And the only thing I heard during this election is what they assumed the city wasn't doing. And what I went and looked at is all the things they were doing. And could it have been worse without those things? I think my second thing is I don't know what the hell Corey was gonna do. So anyone who went for him, I didn't understand what platform he stood on and what actions he was going to take. And if he had the key and cared enough about the city, he would have already been giving us the key to fix it. He wouldn't have needed to be elected to do it. That's my thinking. I don't know if it's right, but I do think we need to focus on parents.
Yeah, here's one thing. Yeah, here's one thing. And Corey Bowman's gotten, beaten up and to some degree, rightfully so when you step out there. But I'll give him credit because he at least did step out there. And I think he even said it himself that part of the reason that he ran is because nobody else would. And I think that is the larger conversation that you need to have about if you're dissatisfied with the leadership. I mean, at least on the city council side, you had almost 30 candidates who were running for city council, but you had 3 who were running for mayor and 2 who should have never even been in the conversation. So where is, from the Republican or the independent or the Democratic side, the higher caliber candidates who could have actually challenged AFTAB? Because I kind of said it in the piece that I wrote. You can look at the election results and you can say, oh, AFTAB had this mandate and people really loved him. I don't believe that's true. I just think the alternative was unthinkable. You weren't going to elect a MAGA mayor in a blue city, particularly one that didn't know what the hell he was doing and had no resume to speak of other than the fact that he was J.D. Vance's half brother. So my thing is where are the qualified people in Cincinnati to step up and challenge? Because I think a higher caliber candidate may not have beat AFTAB, but certainly would have made him sweat a little bit more than Corey Bowman did. I mean, and that's the larger question is where are the folks who are on the sidelines who have the pedigree, the resume, and the track record to step up and lead the city? Why weren't they challenging? Why were Brian Frank and Corey Bowman the best Cincinnati had to challenge AFTAB Pureval? That's a larger question that you need to wrestle with.
Yeah, listen, I don't believe it one bit about Corey Bowman. But the reason why he ran is because nobody else would. Please, that's all self-serving to make him look like he just cares. If he cares so much, why wasn't he voting in these elections? You don't have to Alandis's point, you don't have to be an elected official to roll your sleeves up and get out here. And that was one of the biggest issues that people had with him. It's like, you got all these issues, you care so much. Why weren't you doing something before all of that? Before it became advantageous for you to make the point that you got a problem with AFTAB or the city leadership because you want to be elected. It just came across as self-serving because he didn't have a background to back him up. And perhaps the reason why there are no more qualified candidates to step out against AFTAB is because the most qualified is already in the mayor's office, and that's AFTAB. Maybe that's what it is.
I don't believe that. I mean, I don't believe that for 1 minute.
Well,
that's no diss. That's no diss on AFTAB to say that I'm not saying AFTAB isn't qualified, but to say that AFTAB is the most qualified person in Cincinnati to be the mayor, I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going to go that far and say that because there are probably
some names of people, Democrat or whatever, that would have offered anything other than what he's already offering. That's the point I'm trying to make.
That would have had the money, the backing, the ability, and the experience. Name them. Name them from a Republican.
I don't have a list of names. I don't have a list of names right now that I'm going to pull off the top of my head. But I guarantee you, if you gave me a little bit of time, I mean, I could come up with some names that I could present to you.
You got 1 hour, buddy.
Of some people who could
and
probably
then tell us why they didn't run.
Let me do my homework. Y'all put me on the spot right here, and I don't have an answer for you on the spot. But give me next Tuesday. I have a list of names.
No, you got 1 hour. You next Tuesday. That's way too much.
And I want to see their resume up against AFTAB's because you said there's plenty people better.
I mean, no, I said I refuse to believe that AFTAB is the most qualified or the only person who's qualified to be mayor. That's a ridiculous statement. That is a ridiculous statement to say that nobody else in the city of Cincinnati could be mayor. Come on, man. That's a ridiculous statement.
Does it require a desire to be mayor?
Somebody put in the chat. They put in the chat. Alicia Reese, absolutely.
Alicia Reese
would be 10 times the mayor. She would be 10 times the mayor at Pureval.
But she's the Hamilton County Commissioner.
Okay, but you asked for somebody who could do a better job. I'm telling you, Alicia Reese would run circles around AFTAB Pureval.
But she has a job, so she's not even somebody.
I'm just saying. You asked me who could do it. You didn't say who had another job.
You can't choose someone who's not even willing to jump in the race because she's a Hamilton County Commissioner. That's the reason why she didn't run. She's got a job.
Yeah,
so excluding people who already have jobs as elected officials, who is this person? Yeah. What I would say is, it's probably real tough to get a Democrat to run against AFTAB because what are they going to say? What are they going to run on?
It's party
He's already
loyalty.
doing
That's
it.
the only reason why they're not going to do it. The Democrats aren't going to run anybody against them. Just like you don't run
Exactly.
another person in a party against the incumbent.
Exactly.
You're not gonna do that. But I will say that I'm just not convinced. I'm not convinced, or I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that he is the best, that he is an absolute best, most qualified person. Is he the best that we got who stepped up? Okay, maybe. But again, that's my whole point about people stepping up. And I think the reason why people are not stepping up is because of the political climate. It's easier for people to stay out, stay in the private sector, get their bag, not have to deal with the craziness of folks, death threats, and all of the things that are in the political sphere right now. I think you got a lot of good people who just ain't getting in the mix for that reason.
I think you're using the right term, but you're focusing on the wrong people. You're right. People need to step up, but it's not necessarily as candidates. It's constituents. What are we going to do? What are we going to build differently so we get different results from this city council? Right? Enough with the belly aching. They just got reelected. What are concerned citizens who don't like whatever they're seeing down there? What are we going to do different to put leverage on them so we get the results that we want? That's who needs to step up, the people. Not necessarily the candidates. We got who we got. It's the same 9 people. For me, I think the smart question should be, okay, how do we get the best out of these 9 Democrats so we get the results that we want out of the people, rather than belly aching ad nauseum about how you didn't get what you wanted and you wanted this person? It is what it is. We are where we are. What are we going to do? What are you going to do to get the best out of these 9 people, to leverage it for your whatever your interest is, your neighborhood or whatever? That's what I think the question should be.
Well, just listening to what you're saying, brother Ivy, I don't believe that we are going to get the best out of these people. I mean, they pretty much showed their hand exactly what they're going to do. It's the same situation. I mean, it's like saying, oh, okay, well, we're just going to use the same defense that we got with the Bengals and expect them to hold people. I mean, at the end of the day, we have what we have. I'm not expecting anything different. I'll be surprised if they do something different. So really, to tell you right now, I don't see how the community is going to hold them accountable until you got a couple more years to vote them out, and then you still got to deal with 4 more years with AFTAB. So at the end of the day, you tell me, as a joint community and what you've seen even during this election, what can the community do when things aren't going their way, when you have a whole council that may vote towards one particular direction? What can the community do?
I'm going to personally say you can hold them accountable. And let me be clear. I have before. One person, one voice had a thought, knocked on a door, said what I wanted, said why, laid it out, and they listened, and a change was made. It is called stepping up and not complaining. I can sit here and complain about it, but I'm going to say I have the power in myself to go make change, or to at least drive the conversation where we talk through it, or we can just complain. So I believe that if you knock on people's door and say what you need to say, things will happen. But if you're just going to sit and say nothing's going to happen, guess what's going to happen? Nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
Landis is a great, real quick. Landis is a great example. You know, everybody knows what she did with Black Art Speak. I mean, that's a great example. She built something. So that's what I'm saying to the people. Go build something. I don't know what it might be or what it might look like. Be creative. Use your imagination. You're not going to get everybody to get on board with your ideas. That never happens. But you might be able to coalesce with some people. Y'all might be able to build something that's meaningful, right? Even if it's small, you can still move the needle. But, you know, just to throw your hands up and say, oh, well, we got nothing to do until the next 2 years. I just feel like that is a self-defeating attitude that yields absolutely zero. These people are human beings. Go talk to them. Get to know them.
Yes.
Figure out how to move them. Build a relationship with them. Figure out what the leverage point. Figure out what they want, and then you can figure out how you get what you want by giving them what they want. It's called politicking. But just complaining ad nauseum and you know, throwing your hands up, and that, what is that going to do? That has never created anything.
I think that's easier said than done, because I know people specifically who have really tried to push the envelope with ideas, with great programs, and they get nothing at the door. They may get the 3-minute speech, down at City Hall. So I know some very, very prominent individuals that have knocked on council's doors and haven't gotten in. Well, and so that's where I would love to see. That's why I've always
got to knock more than once, Brother Dre. It can't be like it's persistence. Persistence is what makes things happen. You can't go down once and even get rejected and then not continue to go back or not modify your approach or whatever. I mean, one of the great things about the difference between city council and let's just say the state house or even the federal government is most of your elected officials live where the people are. They live in the neighborhoods. They go to church with them. They shop in the same grocery stores. So they're a lot more accessible to the general public than maybe your state rep is, or even your people at the national level. And that changes the dynamic of how you can get to your elected officials because they are a lot more accessible. But knocking one time is not going to get it. To truly get change in politics, you have to be persistent and you have to have sustained approaches or sustained pitches to these elected officials because they're getting hit from a lot of different directions. And while what you have to say is the most important thing to you, you got to look at people who are juggling dozens of different things. And the only way you get stuff done is you got to keep it in front of them.
Okay, let me throw a name up at you. And I use this name very carefully out of the respect. Rhonda Wynn, the mother of Cassandra Wynn. She kept trying to knock and get a sit down with the mayor and some council members. And guess what? Zero. She didn't get any. And here's a mom that went through a serious tragedy downtown, and she wanted at least a seat at the table. And she personally said they kept blowing me off. And so it's not as easy as we think, even under her circumstances, because even just not too long ago, and I mentioned Hope Dudley, she was just on a TV news broadcast, and she said she was not getting the proper support that is needed. So, and like I said, she's a pioneer that it has been consistent, and she's in her 70s and still says she's not getting the justice that she needs from council and support. So I don't think it's just as easy just saying, here it is, and you're going to hear me, when you had something on this high level that where somebody is saying, who is going to listen to me if not my council members? And why can't I get the same level of respect that Sarah Herringer got because I still went down there, called them, knocked on their door, and they did not give me the same platform? Because I've heard it for a lot of Black individuals who have lost individuals due to violence, and they said, we don't get the same platform that Sarah Herringer got.
So you know what I would suggest? All of those Black mothers or victims who are not getting heard from city council, they need to coalesce. They need to come together. They need to get the churches. They need to get the community behind them. And they all need to show up down at City Hall at a meeting and say very plainly in front of city council, the media, all the TV cameras, here we are, a collection of victims, of crime victims, just like Sarah Herringer, and we can't even get a reply from the mayor's office. I guarantee you that will not get ignored by the media, that will not get ignored by city council members. That's the type of thing that if I go down there, it's easy to ignore me as an individual, but if I build a coalition, if I go down there with some force, if I refuse to be ignored, they have to acknowledge me. And that's the kind of strategy and tactics that you got to employ if you want to get these politicians' attention. That's what we mean by the community has to step up and be persistent and take action. It's easy to ignore one person, but can you ignore 100? Can you ignore 50? Can you ignore that? All saying the same thing in front of you and in front of the media council meeting. That's what it takes.
And I agree with you 1,000%, because talking to Hope Dudley and Rhonda Wynn, we're trying to organize that entire process, just what you said. Go down to City Hall and show them the victims of these mothers and families are suffering too, and the aftermath of even the shootings and the killings that have occurred, that these families are still suffering. So 100% agree with you. That is in the works. And those are the things that I pray that Iris Rowley will be able to assist on too in her platform, because I'm sure that if she takes the lead or assist on something like that to bring those mothers in, it will happen a lot quicker than basically just Andre Ewing being able to do it.
Hey, Andre, your audio, maybe you can turn it down a little bit. I'm still hearing something. It's just uncomfortable, unpleasant. It's something. I don't know what it is, how to even describe it. There's a distortion in your audio a little bit. I hear it more when you start to get more animated and a little louder. Maybe it's something to do with that, but I don't hear it right now, though.
Okay.
Kim writes, next 4 years will be more the same of the previous 4 years for Blacks in Cincinnati. The writing is on the wall. I don't know what that means. You know, like, man, I'm going to say this again. For me, all the stuff that Black people deal with, I get it. It's real. Racism, structurally, legacy race, it's all real. But I mean, I could be on a limb here, but I think most people's lives, racism notwithstanding, because we know that's real. I'm not trying to make that small at all. But most people's lives is an accumulation of their own actions and what they do and what they don't do. So, you know, if Black people sit around for the next 4 years and do the same things they did over the last 4 years, assuming that's nothing just in your example, because I know a lot of people, Black people, that's highly motivated. But if you sit around and don't build nothing for yourself and don't do nothing for yourself, then guess what's going to happen in 4 years? You're going to be in the same spot. So that, to me, that's more of a personal thing. That's how I look at it, Cam. Maybe the crew can give their thoughts on it.
You know, I think sometimes we lack strategic intent, and it takes you sitting down, strategizing, and figuring out how to knock on the door and being willing to take no. But also what you need to understand is, what do you want? Most people just want to be heard. They don't come with a solution. So when you're telling me anyone's knocking on doors, tell me what the solution is. Because when most people knock on a door, they just want to complain and be heard. And then they go away. But the real work comes down to strategizing, coming up with a plan and showing what you want from that plan and what the benefits are going to be. And when you come to that, whether it's at a company, a city, when you come with the reward for what you're doing, most people are going to listen. So you have to say, what do you want? And we're not good at sitting down and strategizing. As a party, as a race, we can't even convince our people to vote. So that's a problem. So if we really want to talk about the Black thing and we want to point our fingers, point them at yourselves and figure out, why is our community not understanding voting? What does civic engagement even mean? What does showing up mean? What does helping another family mean? Like, what does that mean? So I don't get where we're going to the city or where we're saying the next 4 years won't mean anything. It won't if we don't get involved.
Right. And on the voting aspect, like all these people keep talking about, we got the same people in city council. Well, look at, to Atlantis' point, I mean, look at voter turnout in some of these neighborhoods. Like, where is, other than like, and there's people out there, NAACP at the top of the list that's kind of leading the voter registration charge. But where is all these people out there that care so much? It's going to pick up the mantle tonight, next week, and start planning and start building voter registration drives and campaigns to reach more people, so you might get a different outcome 2 years from now in city council. Because if you don't, you're going to get the same turnout with the same people, and you're going to get the same results if you have a problem with them. I don't have a big problem with, you know, what just happened per se. I don't think the city council did a terrible job. I think there are some things I saw at the end after the brawl that kind of, I felt like they were buckling under the pressure. But I mean, I'm just at a point where, get out and build it. Go do it. Or if you see somebody else doing it, go join their team and help them build it. But nonstop complaining and this, that, and the other, yeah, okay, it doesn't do anything. It's not going to create anything.
Bitching, I'm sorry. Are we not supposed to cuss?
I would prefer we didn't. But
okay, I didn't mean to. But complain is just not going to get us anywhere.
It's not going to get us anywhere. You're right.
It can be a start, right? Because a lot of times the complaint or the dissatisfaction is the part that begins movement, right? So the complaint, if complaining is all you do, then yeah, that's a problem.
That's all we do.
I agree with you that there has to be movement. There has to be some personal responsibility. But I do think where the city comes in, because the city is taking all of our tax dollars and they're deciding how that money is being used. Where I see the city's role is, and where the community can push them is in creating opportunities and clearing obstacles for people to do exactly what you talk about, Nathan. So if I'm going out and I want to build something in my neighborhood, then I'm trusting that the city is not going to create a bunch of red tape for me that makes it impossible for me to get my small business off the ground. Or if there are tax dollars available to invest in small businesses that I want to get off, how do I get access to that? And how is that information trickling into the neighborhoods in the appropriate places so that people can take advantage of it? So I think that yes, there is a part of it to where, yeah, you got to get up, get out, and get your own and make it happen. But then there's also this part of the city part, the civic engagement of creating opportunities and clearing obstacles to make it easy for people who have that mindset to be able to go out. And then there's also the part of the safety and creating neighborhoods that create environments where you can be successful. You know, we talk about the disinvestment, you know, in some of these other neighborhoods and that sort of thing. And we know that the city puts certain attention in certain places. Whatever they can do to help make, and you can't really fully force developers to develop anywhere that they don't want to. Like, I think that's also part of a myth. You know, developers are going to go where they think that they can make money, and they'll only move to someplace else when that well is dried up. So if Hyde Park is the place where the money is at and all the development is at, that's where the developers are going to be until that's dried up. And then they'll focus on, you know, another neighborhood or two where they want to invest. That's kind of how that goes. But I think that there are some things that the city can do to try to make some areas more alluring, you know, so that when developers are ready to move, they can go in there. There's shovel-ready sites. You're not dealing with crime and trash and things of that nature that makes places look more inviting to people who want to go in and invest money there. So I do think those are the types of things that, you know, people can be talking to council about and putting pressure on them to do as they're going out and doing their own thing.
So that's the local level. Let's talk about the national level. It seems to be, you know, big win for Democrats across the country in most of the elections. I myself have found that ever since Tuesday night, I find that I'm watching a little bit more cable news. I don't know what it is. I just feel it just feels different now. I feel a little bit more hopeful. Overall, who were the big winners in your opinion? And are Black people big winners in what you saw on a national level in terms of the election results?
Say it again, Nathan. I didn't catch it.
So overall, in terms of the national level of election results, who were the big winners in your opinion? And are Black people big winners overall in terms of the election and results on Tuesday?
Well, without question, Democrats nationally. I mean, I think there's broad consensus that the blue wave, you know, ran over just about everywhere on Tuesday. And so if you are someone who believes that, you know, the benefits for Black people lie with Democrats being in charge and in control, then yes. I mean, the Democratic victories over the weekend, you know, might bode well or better than it would have for Black people if the alternative had won. I mean, I think if you believe as a Black person that the Democrats align more with you socially on issues, then you've got to say the victories that they had on Tuesday, you know, bode well for Black people. But ultimately, we will have to see. You know where I've stood on return on investment for Black people from what they put in the Democratic Party, which is it's not equal, in my opinion.
It's not equal. I will tell you though, I have the heart and the thinking of a Republican. I do. I believe you pull yourself up. I believe that when you you can make your economy stronger by ensuring that corporate America is strong. But where it falls apart is that you actually have to have corporate America doing the right thing for everyone, and they don't show up like that. So that's where you turn and you go to the Democratic Party. For me, because when you weigh them both, one makes perfect sense that if you can make corporations and companies strong, it's supposed to make the environment strong, but then they have to hire us to go in their buildings, and they don't. They don't promote us, they don't pay. We still have a huge gap with Black women in pay. Black men don't make enough. They don't want you at the table. I know, I've been there, I've been in the rooms, so I could never been a Republican. So the only other place you can go is Democrat or independent, but independent doesn't win. So I'm a Democrat because I'll never be a sellout. And I was successful. But at the end of the day, they don't want us in corporate America making money. They want us making minimum money. They don't want us having everything we want and being able to do the right things. The Republican Party is not for Black people. And it's also not for poor people. It's for racist people. And it's been that way for a long time. And anyone who wants to debate about that, let's go look at data. They've never even brought jobs to the neighborhood for people. We lose jobs under Republicans. And the Democrats are not perfect. They are far from perfect. But when you add them both up, I'm going Democrat until the Republicans can change people. And they can't. They won't. They don't even want to. And it's even worse. It was why it was so easy for a person like Trump to infiltrate the Republicans. That's my thinking. So Black people didn't win because it wasn't a lot of Black people that was running on this last race, but Black people won through Democrats winning.
Well, I'm gonna just say, Sister Powell, thank you for being here. You bring like this calmness to the floor, and just that even keel. And I appreciate your knowledge and your information is very valued. I appreciate it. It's like the education that needs to be involved too in the communities is really needed. And with social media, to a sense, it has done such a disservice because you hear so much and people actually vote based on emotion, not based on reason. That was a little plug for you, Kevin, the voice of reason. But, you know, when we just go based on emotion and we don't get the facts and we don't really get taught, and really in the inner cities and Black communities, they vote out of emotion. And we really need to start voting on reason, get more educated, and have individuals that know the system, know Democrat, know Republican, and really show us things to where people get a better understanding based on just saying, I hate somebody or dislike somebody just because they are running Republican or Democrat or even independent, but really get to know the structure behind what is better for our nation.
Yeah, that's fair. In today's environment, I don't need to get to know anyone that's for MAGA or Republican, in all honesty. I'm going to listen to you, but at the end of the day, they have actually shown you who they were. And I think someone said that Republicans didn't always be that way, nor Democrats. That's true, but I'm not talking about them then. I am talking about right now. And everything they have done has said, Black people don't matter. Mm-hmm. They have said it. And they have shown it. They started by attacking DEI because that's what they promised to those racists that's a part of the MAGA. They came out strong, showing us. I know people who fought for our rights to get the DEIs and the affirmative actions that we just let walk out our freaking door. And so anyone who voted for that looks like me wasn't thinking. It was exactly what Harriet Tubman called you. Weak hearted, because you were ready to turn back on the rest of the people. So I think you really have to dig in and look at what anyone is supporting, if it's a part of MAGA or Republicans. Now, when it comes to different issues, I have voted for different issues that wasn't under Democrats because of the issue. So I'm smart enough to do that. I'm not just like one-sided, but I am Black and I do have a family that I'm leaving behind. And I want to leave them set up. And right now we are leaving this place worse than we found it as Black people. That's what we're doing. Affirmative action mattered. People don't want us in the room. We are more qualified and have less of the jobs. That is on purpose. And it happened under Republicans. Republicans, when they're in office, they have gotten 1 million jobs compared to over 10 million under the Democrats. Tell me where that makes any sense for anyone. Are any of you billionaires? And there's a difference between billionaires and millionaires. Anyone on this call a billionaire?
No.
You have no business being a Republican. None. None. Go do the math. I've done the math.
I read that about 400,000 Black women have lost their jobs. About 1 million jobs have been lost since the beginning of the year. This ain't good for nobody that's working class. This affects all of us, and I'm still struggling to understand how it makes sense. Like I heard people say, "Well, I voted the way I did because I'm a fiscal conservative." How does that make sense? Deficits ballooning, people out of work. And I think that people need to understand that we are all connected. You might still have your job today. You may not need SNAP benefits, but we are all connected, all of us, especially if you're a small business owner. When people have less, they got less disposable income. That's less DoorDash. That's less going to the movies. That's less snacks. That's less frivolous spending, lifeblood of small businesses. That ain't good for any of us. So I'm still trying to figure out what the turnaround is and how it makes any sense. But right now, as I sit here, I got a lot of questions, a lot of question marks. How is this good for anybody who's not already sitting on a whole lot of M's? You're sitting on a whole lot of M's. It don't matter. It hasn't hit you yet. But that's a very small percentage of the population. So, what are you doing? Every time you vote, there's consequences, and we're dealing with the consequences right now.
Yeah, I think to Brother Dre's point about people voting with emotion, I kind of felt like in this last election that's what people did more so, but going for the other way instead of looking at, the facts as Alandis said. I mean, if you look at how.
You mean in November 2024?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think people got caught up in, they didn't use reason. They didn't use logic to look at things. I think they based their vote on a lot of other things that I think had nothing to do with sort of thoughtfully thinking through what the best choice was and what the ramifications of their vote was going to actually be. And you got a lot of people right now who are having buyer's remorse because they're paying the penalty for that. And so I think a lot of times we always want to say, well, Black people vote with emotion. Well, no, white folks vote with emotion too. I think voters, a lot of voters in general, regardless of what color you are, don't vote with their mind. They vote with their gut. And that is not the best way to make decisions when you're going to ignore facts and data and information in favor of, well, this is how I feel about something. You always wind up, kind of stepping in it when that's the determiner you use when you're casting your ballot.
Yeah, after Shahara writes, Nathan, you absolutely must have Alandis back on with terrorists on the panel. Oh no, to check him to oblivion. Oh no, she likes the drama.
I don't know who that is.
Oh my God, it makes it even better. I think she's right, but Alandis has an open door policy. Anytime she got time. She's a part of our email chain.
I'm trying to figure out how to help Miss Hope, who the Brother Dre was talking about already, to see if there's something there instead of just complaining about stuff. But I'm not trying to argue with anyone, and I hope no one takes it personal, but I do take voting personally.
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely, it's consequential. It is very consequential.
Yes.
It made me think about the times we live in, and it's a little bit off the table, but I've been sitting on this for a while. I think we've all heard about some of these farmers, these soybean farmers now who, some of these people have generational farms and look like they might be losing them. So there's a conversation going on online about whether they should be bailed out by the government. I've heard a lot of black people, primarily, that's just the circles that I be in, are saying like, nah, they don't deserve to be bailed out. There's others who are like, nah, they're Americans. I'd rather they keep their farms than lose them to a billionaire. What do you guys think? I mean, should these
Well,
farmers who
if we
may
can
have voted
bail
for
out,
Trump be bailed out?
if we can bail out banks, if we can bail out, Argentina or whoever we just gave $40 billion to, I can't remember which country it was, but if we can bail out the big banks and give them a big payday, if they're too big to fail, and we can go off and spend all of this money in other countries, why can't we help these farmers who, quite frankly, many of them are suffering because of the tariff policies
Right.
of this country?
Well,
And
that's
some
the
of the
point.
other,
That's
some
the
of the
people
things
saying
that,
they voted for this. So why should
yeah.
they get bailed out? That's the argument that people are making right now. What do you
Well,
think?
probably every. I mean, can you say that that's true of every one of these farmers that they cast that vote for? That they cast that vote for Trump? I don't know. I mean,
I think
I
generally
think,
speaking, you can say that in some cases.
say
In some of
again.
your, I think generally speaking, in some cases, in some states, you can make that argument.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it applies to all, and so should all be punished because a few people make bad choices, and I would say not. I would say absolutely. Those folks deserve the same benefits of bailing out. I'm always going to be for the average citizen or the citizen. If you can bail out corporate America, you can bail out the little guy too. In fact,
Okay.
they need it more than
Love
corporate
to hear
America.
that. Love to hear it. Yeah. What do you guys think? Should they be bailed out? Some
Well,
people say no.
absolutely. I mean, absolutely. But at the same time, when I look at this, man, I just shake my head because Trump gave up the playbook. I mean, they were talking about 2025, and I think people just really thought that he was like, man, that can't be serious. He just playing, and that's what I think is deep. Is everything that was presented, he's actually doing, but the election was motivated by fear and hate. And to me, that's how it happened. And plus, you made a point, Kevin, saying he only beat women, and that was an interesting point that people kind of put in the thought process. And I know I think Denard says, "Oh, now we're dealing with misogyny as well, just in this overall process." So this country is in for a nightmare, and I don't even see how we're going to be able to recover. And having him in for another 3 years, it's going to take some serious things that are going to have to come in place because we're already seeing what is happening, and he hasn't even been in a year yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone suggested that we're moving. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alandis.
Oh no, I was just going to answer your question really quick about if we should bail them out. And my black side says, give us our reparations and we'll farm for everyone and take care of it, so we don't need to bail out anyone. Just give us our money, and then we'll take care of it. But then my comment, practical sense, says yes, we should bail them out. The other thing is, when we bailed out banking, I was part of banking. It did ensure that some of the millionaires remained millionaires. We made sure they got their bonuses, etc. The banking, though, is just like food. A lot of our money is tied up in it. Who we are is tied up in banking. Banking has a huge impact on everything we do, and so does farming. So I say yes, but I do say let them sweat a little bit, because I bet it's probably over 70% of them, if not 80, that voted for this nut. So let them sweat a little bit, but I do think they need to be bailed out.
Yeah, for me, absolutely. I got empathy. Even for the people that voted for Trump. And there's been so many videos of the voters' remorse. Even Latinos, brown people voted for him, thinking that they were gonna like go after the so-called bad ones, and they end up having family members deported out of the country. I just feel bad. I feel terrible. These farmers are American citizens. We all make mistakes. They may have made a mistake. They may not have. But my fear is there's a deeper plot. And I fear that the deeper plot is to bankrupt the farming industry so that the billionaire class can come in and own everything and own all of the food production. And I think that's a far worse future than using American tax dollars. Like people already said, we bailed out the banks, we bailed out a lot of folks. Bail out these folks, let them keep their farms. I can see a dystopian future where you got 10 companies that own everything, and I mean everything. And I don't think that's good for anybody. I don't think it's good
Well,
for
the good
anybody.
thing about that though is, Nathan, if that does happen, the robot apocalypse, when it comes, they'll be running anything and everything anyway. So they're gonna wipe all those folks out you talking about.
Yeah, I mean, Elon Musk, he just signed a new deal that might pay him, if he meets all the incentives, he might be the world's first trillionaire. I don't think that's good for America or this country or this world in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. That much accumulation of wealth in the hands of one person, it ain't good. It's immoral, in my opinion. But he's also got these new robots that he's like wants to sell to the military, man. So I don't know. It's like I pick up the news, and whether I'm reading about this A1 comet or whatever, and something happened, it'll be here in a year or two, or I'm reading about AI or robots. It's like a bad sci-fi movie or a really good sci-fi movie, either way. Any thoughts? No thoughts? Okay. All right, so let's move on here. Let's talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene for a second. I think we all know who she is. She was like arch MAGA, and now she is sounding different. She's sounding a lot different. Like she's sounding like she's living in Earth One, like the world that we live in. And she's criticizing the Republican leadership in the House, Speaker Mike Johnson, and she's talking about how they're not talking about affordability and really meeting people where they are. She's blamed the government shutdown on the Republicans. Most recently, Nancy Pelosi, who was a longtime Speaker of the House, uh, MTG came out and gave her a lot of praise and said a lot of good things about her. So I want to talk to Black folks. Are we buying what she is selling? Seems like she's kind of switching now. Maybe she's more of an independent. Maybe she might become a Democrat. Is this all self-serving, or is she invited to the cookout?
She's not invited to my cookout. I'm not sure. I would say that this is a great strategic play because she's up against this Black guy who is really getting momentum. And I think it really has to do with winning, but that will require her to be very smart, which I don't think she is. So I think that she might have the right people on her side telling her what to do, but I don't think it's authentic. And I think she'll flip back around. But I do think she's probably gone through some things personally, maybe when it comes to men or abuse, etc. Just because how she's really on this Epstein thing, which is what probably the biggest thing that started driving her voice. So sometimes you're not sure what people have gone through personally. So it could be some of that at play too, but I don't trust her at all.
Can't hear your mic, Nathan.
So no invitation to the cookout. Got it.
Yeah, no ribs, no baked beans. Keep your hand out the collards. You know what I'm saying? You don't have that privilege yet. I agree with everything that Alandis said. Almost 100%. I can't really add anything more than that. I mean, of course, she says she's quit drinking the QAnon juice. I mean, that helps. When you get off the QAnon sauce, that helps you a little bit.
And that's worse than the gin and juice.
Yeah, but it's politics, man. So I'm always skeptical, particularly when you have these quick pivots. You know what I'm saying? It's rare that you have a politician that comes to some sort of real enlightenment, on a dime like that. Without something extremely personal happening to them, right? Like I think everybody remembers where Rob Portman used to stand on the whole LGBTQ issues, and until it turned out his son, was in that category, and then he did that quick pivot. So those are usually the only times where you see politicians who have been sort of as staunch as she has been throughout her career change on a pivot. Either that, or as Alonda said, you feel some sort of political threat that's requiring you to move in a different direction. Now, I will say that ever since the Epstein files thing came out, she's been different. Like, I think that was somewhat eye-opening and revelatory for her as well. So I would not discount the impact that has played maybe to some degree in this change of tone, but I'm still not buying it.
Yeah, I agree. she's not invited. I mean, we may give her some water. She can't get no flavored Kool-Aid. She can't get the real stuff on the grill. We might give her might get the box lunch around the side, but she definitely ain't getting no true seasoning at this time. And that's the deep fact about these politics. Who do you trust in the land of politics? And usually they say if it look like a duck, walk like a duck, and quack like a duck, it's a duck. So people would do whatever it takes to either get reelected in this game. And that's why consistency is key. We got to have some consistency, and we're going to start seeing, I bet you in the next year or so, it's going to be a lot of people flipping just to get back into those seats once again.
Yeah, I can't go against the crew. Yeah, absolutely. I don't trust her either. She's going to have to put more skin in the game and really give up something and some consistency before I believe it. And then AOC, she put out a video where she was kind of spilling the tea this past week and said what the real issue is she fell out with Donald Trump and she fell out with the Republican hierarchy because she wanted to run for senator. And they basically told her, no, we're not going to endorse you. So she kind of got sour grapes about that. Maybe she wants to run for president, so she's trying to move back to the center. But either way, I ain't buying it. And it's a no for me, 100%. Can't feel it. Can't feel it.
I think any of those, the Senate, I think the Senate as well as I think, sort of the presidential aspirations, I think are both situations where her reach is exceeding her grasp, I think a little bit. And I don't blame the Republicans for poo-pooing that because I don't think she has a legitimate shot at either. Where she's at is probably about the zenith of her political career. And, unless she goes back to some state office or something like that, tries to be a governor or, something wherever she came from, I think as far as the federal level, she's reached her ceiling.
Mm-hmm. Here's some drama. Center that you, Dre, fame writes, but you're a retired cop, Dre. Why should we trust you just because you're black? I don't share that. Like, because he was a police officer, he can't be trusted. But if you want to speak to it, you can. If not, I would just move on.
Yeah. I'll say you shouldn't trust me because, I'm going to go biblical. The Bible says test the spirits to see if they are of God. Just because I'm black and just because I'm a police officer don't mean you should trust me. What you should do is test the resume and see if I'm consistent or not. Because we know in history there's been plenty of blacks who have infiltrated sections and done things to other blacks. So no, you shouldn't just trust me because I'm black, but maybe it'll get me a seat at the table and we can communicate. But at the end of the day, test the work, test the spirits, and let's see where my consistency lies.
I like that answer. Okay, now take that, fame. Take that. Now what?
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. The other thing that I think, and I kind of feel this way about Brother Dre. I know him both from his police experience and I know him outside of that from, the personal experience. And, I don't necessarily have to agree with everything somebody says to respect their experience or their point of view. So I think, Brother Dre, like it or not, was on the police force for 30 years. You've seen some stuff. You've experienced some stuff. And certainly he brings his perspective, to that. And it shapes how he, his attitudes on those experiences. But that doesn't mean that they're not worth listening to, that they're not valid, that they're not worth depositing in my thought process in terms of how I view and I look at things, because I'm going to compare what he says to other people that I know and respect who are on the police force. And I'm going to see what lines up and I'm going to see what doesn't line up. Right. And so I think we got to get past this point of just because I might disagree with something that you say that I'm going to invalidate the entirety of anything that you have to say or your experience, or you're not trustworthy because we don't agree. You're not trustworthy if you lie. You're not trustworthy if you cheat. You're not trustworthy if you steal. The fact that I don't agree with you or see things from your perspective is not necessarily something that makes you untrustworthy. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think we actually have to learn to listen to each other with the thought process of agreeing. Because if I listen to you and try to agree with you, I'm hearing you. Now, a lot of times we're going to end, and then actually it makes my argument stronger because I listened to you. And then I can figure out where I didn't agree. When Trump first started, I was like, oh, I'm about to vote for him, all because he was a businessman. And I was like, I think we need to think like a businessman in this. And I listened to him probably 2 times. And I was like, I'd never vote for this. I'm still done. I still couldn't do it. But I did listen at first. It didn't have to do with color. Um, I am pro black, whatever that means. It's my experience, is who I am. I am going to root for you all the time. When something happens, the first thing I'm looking is to say, Lord, don't let it be a black person. Like, that's who I am. But I also see through bull crap. And I try to actually listen to people's heart a little bit and understand where they're coming from. Like Brother Dre has confused me with the fact he was going for Corey, and then he said he doesn't you have me all confused. I haven't figured you out yet, so I'm gonna keep listening and everything, because I can't understand like anyone that looks like us that's gone through this that thought he was the right person. So that has me a little baffled. I am a very, very, uh, it's very hard for me to deal with anyone black and mega at this point, but I still try to listen to them because they might have something great to say. I try not to disrespect them, and I just try not to talk about it sometimes, right? But it is very disheartening for me. But at the same time, they might bring something I need to hear. And if you're on the side of the road and you need my help, I'm gonna still give it to you. But I'm not gonna donate anything to you ever again. Things like that. But I do think we have to learn to listen to each other. But don't let black fool you. Sometimes we've let the color fool us, and they're not on our team.
Interesting.
Well, let me tell you something about the whole Corey Bowman situation. Um, when he was running, I definitely wanted to hear him out. I reached out to him. I said, I want to sit down with you. I want to hear where you coming from, because he was a pastor first before he was the running for mayor. And hearing his beliefs in the pastoral stage, and there was another pastor that actually got a lot of flack for starting to walk with Corey Bowman. But I wanted to hear exactly what he had to say in the process. And I know he was guilty by association with his brother. He got labeled a MAGA. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the things that was said about him behind closed doors actually wasn't true. But I had even told him that when he had when they had the debate, and when they asked him clearly, what do you think about Trump? And he just said, well, I guess got a problem with his hair. I had told him, I said, people aren't playing games with this. And I said, you making that statement is going to completely hurt you in the long run. And they asked him about JD, and he said, I'll never talk about, my brother. He said, I'll be with family first, no matter what. And so that's when I think a lot of people, even if he had momentum, turn. And I told him, quit throwing up the FOP in everybody's face. Because once he started throwing FOP around everybody, now all of a sudden it started to become a serious issue, and you couldn't really see where Corey Bowman stood and was now he being led by everybody else. So trust me, there was some things that just because I sat down with him didn't mean I agreed 100% on which direction he was going towards the entire game, I should say.
I want to see what Corey Bowman is it Bowman or Bowman? I want to see what he's going to do, Bowman, what he's going to do moving forward. So if you love the city so much and you're so concerned, you just lost the election, what you going to do now? You just going to go back to private life, or you going to stay involved in some way to try to make the city better that you said need to be made better? And I think, time was going to tell whether he is authentic or not. Or is this just a stepping stone for you to really run for something on the state level, or run for some other office, or get a position inside the Trump administration, which if that happens, good for him. But as a Cincinnatian, I want to know whether you authentically care and want to roll your sleeves up and get ready to do the work to make the city better? Or was it just campaign talk?
I'm sorry. I don't particularly care what he does next, first of all. The second thing on the whole, I'm a pastor thing, that doesn't bear any fruit when it comes to MAGA or supporting this. And here's why. First of all, they ran on this whole pro-life. And if you're a pastor running on pro-life, you would understand that you can't regulate that. If you want to regulate something, regulate adultery, regulate fornication. That's in the Bible. Like the whole running on pro-life, you skipped a couple steps. If you really was about that thing, you would have been running on, we're actually going to regulate the other pieces that they would never do. Men would never do that. And so that's just a pretense, if you ask me. And the other thing that's come to realization, you can't actually concern yourself with feeding people or kicking people out this country the way they are, et cetera, and saying you're pro-life. So him just being involved in that and pastors using that is just almost a ploy of the devil, if you ask me, because you can't skip over sin and say it's just this part of a sin you care about. I don't know how you do it, and actually with a straight face. Mm-hmm. The other thing is everyone knows historically it's always been Christians, and I'm not saying the right Christians, who actually drive politics for their own good. And that's what we saw in a very big way when it came to this party. So I don't care what he does. Hopefully he does it somewhere else. I don't even think he cares about Cincinnati personally.
You may be right about that. I cannot disagree. I'm agreeing a lot. Yeah, absolutely. How are you pro-life, but you think it's funny that people are losing SNAP benefits? These are children. These are disabled people. These are your neighbors. How you think that's funny? How are you pro-life? And to your point, how are you pro-life and you don't care about families being ripped apart? I seen a man today. He appeared to have a seizure. Hispanic man. Apparently ICE thought he was not documented or whatever. His baby's in the car screaming hysterically. This man is like having a seizure. How are you pro-life and you think that's okay? You're not. You're pro your narrow viewpoint that you want to push on everybody else. And you want to call it pro-life because it sounds good, right? Kind of like school choice, which is really.
So you saying Corey doesn't care about people? I mean, I was just trying to make sure I hear what you're saying. You're saying he don't care that people was losing SNAP benefits?
Who are you asking?
Yeah, I'm asking the floor. I hear you said this man doesn't care, and I'm asking you, what proof do you have that he doesn't care, based on his running for mayor or based on you knowing him as a person?
Well, what I would say is the point I made 2 points. So the point I made before is we will see how much he really cares about the city of Cincinnati based upon what he does next. Is he going to fall back into public life in obscurity, or is he going to stand up to what he said on the campaign trail and get his hands dirty and try to make this city better, even as a private citizen? But then to my second point is, I don't know whether he's pro-life or not. If he's pro-life, but he's also pro what we see in terms of these mass deportations, I think it's hypocritical, period. If he's pro-life, but yet he's pro cutting SNAP benefits and social safety net benefits, he's a hypocrite in my opinion. And anybody else that fits that description.
Yeah, pro-life and voting for Trump is a problem. Like, it doesn't even align. Being pro-life, voting for Trump, looking at Project 2010, understanding what all it said was going to happen. You can't be pro-life in that. You just used it to get us to this point. It in my book, and maybe I'm being too literal, and I don't know him at all. And the fact that you spent your equity talking to him, Brother Dre, is disheartening, because maybe you should have used it to actually talk to someone who could have really helped our city and cared about our city. But when you look at him, even from a distance, it doesn't line up right, if you ask me. But I could be wrong.
Well, that's why I'm glad that, God just doesn't throw all of us away. And I wasn't going to throw Corey away just based on hearing him out, regardless of the circumstances. because wise counsel is always needed in any situation. So if I was going to be invited to the table and to be able to at least try to implement wise counsel, see where his stance was, then to completely shun him away. You looking at somebody who did prison ministry and walked in prisons and everybody hated the police just because of the uniform. And so I had to break down some barriers to earn their respect and their trust just to walk in. That's why I say it does take time, but they immediately looked at me as, man, we don't want nothing to deal with you because you're the police. And so that's why I have a heart to hear from anyone and not be judgmental in any particular situation.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, and this is a good process, I think, that we're going through, because I think trying to get at the heart of why anybody supports anybody that they do is, I think, an area or ground that we don't often spend time in. I mean, I think Brother Dre brought up an interesting point is, do we make some of these declarations about individuals based on something that we see or what we actually know about individuals? And the reality is that most of the time we make snap judgments about people based on snippets of either what we hear them say or a post that they might share or something like that, without knowing the individual personally. I mean, we've made this a point on this show. I couldn't probably disagree with Terrace on more things, but as I've gotten to know him as a human being, I know him as a man, and his politics, whatever they may be, however they confuse me or they don't make sense to me in terms of how they line up. I understand who he is as an individual, as a person, as a man, and those things can be very different. And I think when we get into political conversations, we sometimes forget that we're all the sum total of our experiences, our knowledge, and our information, and we make those decisions based on those things. And I think that probably if you spend some time sitting down, talking to Brother Dre, and he explained to you some of his personal experiences, engagements with particular individuals, you might be able to understand how he arrived at a Corey Bowman support, right? And those relationships you may not have the same relationships with some of those individuals that he has, that colors your judgment and approach. So I think we would all do well to probably try to spend more time trying to understand each other and what our motivations are. We might get farther in conversations with each other instead of just making blanket statements, about individuals' hearts, minds, beliefs, whether they're Black enough or not. All of the sort of character assassination things that we like to do with people who don't agree with us.
No, I agree. But in politics, you open yourself up for that. That's probably why a lot of people didn't, when we said, why didn't other people go to become mayor? Maybe that's why, because they have a past and everyone knows everyone comes up. I mean, all that comes up. That's one thing. But I am going to say this. There is a difference between supporting people who discriminate against you in your face and supporting people who has fooled you into thinking they're on your team. I'm going to ask you this. What president would we have ever elected with 34 felonies and that everything he had that was Black? None. That's called discrimination, people. And when you actually side with white supremacists that actually has the biggest white supremacists on their team in the White House, in the administration, was a part of everything they were doing, who's boo-boo the foo-foo? So when do you actually cut ties and say, if you're not for us, I can't be for you. I can pray for you. Let me get this real. I am so imperfect. I will give grace because I've been given grace. And a lot of people have been given grace and they don't even know it. So I will give grace and I will give love and appreciation and help you and listen to you and want to understand. But discrimination is discrimination. And when you make it okay a little bit, you open the door a big bit. And I don't play with that. And as Black men, I expect you to even be stronger than me. That's all I'm saying. And Brother Dre, if you were going to use your wisdom on someone, I think you should have used it on someone who actually valued you and what they're doing. And you cannot support that and value us. You could have done it with the old Republicans. We could have said, hey, it's just you really love your $1 million and that's why you for him. I reached the tax bracket that said I should be for him. Trump liked me more than he liked you. Him. Do you know what I'm saying? He's more on my team. You look at the bank than he is for poor white people. But I don't go for discrimination. And neither should you. So
let me say something to you.
Walk me through where that's okay.
Okay, let me say this. Is because this is the first time you and I are meeting through this conversation, which is always good. But I always look at a biblical perspective. Daniel was a counselor for King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. Was a secular, terrible place. But his position and being a wise counselor, even with the things that he told Nebuchadnezzar the truth, were things that eventually came to pass. And so, as I'm not here to question God, I'm here to say if I'm placed in a position to implement wise counsel, I'm going to use it, because this is how my journey has been through pretty much all my life. And even though me and Iris have had knocked down, say some conversations, there have been officers who have talked about her, and I've said, man, you don't have a clue where her heart is. They're looking at a surface of Iris Rowley, but they don't really know the heart of Iris Rowley. So I understand that even in this whole process of the journey, but just placing complete judgment, because I believe if he would have ran independent, we probably wouldn't be having these conversations. Besides, JD was his brother. And so, but since he ran strictly Republican, that whole conversation just came up on a different end. And his inexperience as, being someone running for mayor and subject to public scrutiny. I mean, like I said, I can just respect anybody for even just trying to just get on the platform. But I would love to see if Corey would want to come on the show, and let's have, have a conversation and see how he answers the question. Because one thing I don't want to do is speak for someone else when they can speak for themselves. And I think that would be something the listeners would love to see, is Corey Bowman come on the show and have that conversation on the hot mic.
That would be great. Can I just inject
That would be
something?
hot.
That would be really good. Can I inject something real quick? We got Sister Iris with us. I am today's years old when I realized that the Nebuchadnezzar was not just the name of Morpheus's shit in the movie Matrix, like it's actually in the Bible. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you.
You get on my nerves.
It's more of today's show. Thank you
You
so much.
get on my
Hey,
nerves.
Brother Drado, can I just correct you on one thing? Because first you said you went to him, and you said, I decided to reach out to him to see what he's about. And then we get to talking and you keep acting like you were responding to him reaching out to you. So can you clarify for me? Because I was speaking to you based on the fact you said, I reached out to him when I found out he was running.
No, he reached out to me and I reached back out to him to hear what he had to say.
Because there's a difference. So I heard you say something different. So I apologize for that piece. And the other thing, we can keep bringing up God and what happened with David and everything. I've been to Jerusalem. I know 90% of the people over there don't even believe in Jesus. They know he came, but they don't believe in him. So we can talk through that. But I'm going to talk in today's terms. I love God. I believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, to make sure that's clear. I believe we treat people the way we want to be treated. I believe the greatest gift you can give to me is treat my kids good. Even if you don't treat me good, I'm going to love you. And that's what God expects from us. He doesn't expect discrimination. I'm not moving from that point because that is not godly. That is not of God, not helping people, kicking people out of this country and acting like it's the right thing to do without a process. I'm never going to be okay with that. And I don't think as Black people, anyone should be okay with that. And I'm okay with listening. I have listened to KKK members and understood where they were coming from when they say they're worried about losing their purity and their bloodline. I understand what they're saying. I hear them, but I don't agree that they're better than us. And that's it. I'm
Hey,
sorry.
hey, y'all. How y'all doing today?
Hey, what's happening?
Guess what, y'all? I'm free. Contract is signed. All of them. All of them. So, Kevin, I called you because I wanted to take you up on your offer on really and truly trying to figure out how to tell this story. Hey, Landis, it's so good to see you in this conversation. I don't know who called you, but that was a great call calling that queen right there. I appreciate the wisdom and the knowledge. Um, hey, Dre, what is happening with you, dear brother? I wanted to just jump on and say I I think when it comes to politics and the political plane that, and I'm talking to Black people because that's who I advocate for, that's who I care about, and that's who needs my assistance. And so I think that when we get into this realm, the collective has gone out the window. And some of us speak on individualistic terms, not quite understanding that the collective is what needs to move. If the collective got more, then individually we would get more. If the collective was respected more, then individually we would be respected more. But it appears sometimes in the political realm, we are for everybody when everybody isn't for us. And that's clear in our everyday lives. And so when I say that I'm pushing for equity for Black people, folk get mad about that because they don't believe we should have it. There's a current politician that sits on the county commission right now, and she's non-Black. And she came into my business and she said to me, Iris, I speak to my constituencies all over the county, and they do not believe that Black people pay taxes. Where and so ever they may get these thoughts and ideas from is how they keep compounding them, thinking that we don't deserve the greatest of what we should get, and that we shouldn't get equity. And it is thoughts like that that baffle me and just take me in that. This is in this decade. This is in this
But that's
time right
ignorance,
now.
Iris. That's
I don't know,
ignorance. That's
I,
willful ignorance
sir,
because a simple Google search could enlighten you to the fact of how ridiculous
my
a
point
statement like
is,
that
sir,
is.
yes, and I agree with you. It's extremely dumb, but there are some people who just want to believe that. That's why they believe in what we have in on the national level, which leads me to the local conversation around Corey Bauman. I'm willing to give everybody a chance to say that they want to come in and make this particular town different, better, stronger, wiser, more equitable. I'm down with that. I didn't hear that from him. I didn't hear him separate himself from the national lens, which is not for folk who look like me, who has stripped away the rights um, from the civil rights handbook to just being able to participate on a daily basis is even difficult, and even able to eat, knowing that the systems have been unequitable in our lives. So it baffles me that when we come together collectively, that we don't have these conversations about who will serve us and what do we want from them. The only document that I have for Black people is the one that I've been operating from for 25 years. And believe you me, people ain't just now have not just started talking about Iris Rowley. They started when we started. Who are those Black people, and how, in my Nathan Ivy voice, how dare she be so self-determined and want to do something for her people that they actually form an organization, get with some other people and sue the police. You can't even imagine how many Black people told us that we were wrong. I watched the Black cops be so afraid of this movement, of the move. And no matter how many times we said we are doing this in service to y'all as well, because we know y'all getting y'all butts kicked internally. We watched it. And so when we don't have the collective thought, that's why I can come back on this platform and say, you know what? Brother Dre, my angst ain't with you. Even though I think you're wrong and you're standing next to someone that literally am not, opinion tried to take my life because Mr. Ballman put up all that negative stuff on his website about Iris Rowley, even when it wasn't true. And you knew it wasn't true. And if you're running for mayor for me, that speaks to your character. If you're running for mayor for me, not participating in any election prior to this, spoke to your character to me. Running for mayor of this town and you were not a resident and you don't know historically the things that have happened, what is your game plan? I was at the same debate you were at. I saw you and I purposefully didn't say hello because it was some serious hostility. Because I do have a spouse too. I do have children also, as you saw by the whole Channel 9 investigative report. And that was just one son. I have three of SUNs. And so when I heard him say, and he looked over at me because I happened to be sitting in the wrong section. I just sat down because the Rollies are typically late. And we walked in, and so we just sat down. And when the current mayor, the re-elect mayor, asked him, "Well, what are you saying about the collaborative agreement?" One, it was clear to me that he hadn't read it. Two, when he said it's not the collaborative that I don't like, it's the people that are collaborating. And he looked at me. And so here's what I say to folk who go, now that they're talking about Iris Rowley, because you've seen one video, you have not the full context of that. And as adults, we should be about talking to people. We sued alleging racial profiling. We rolled in a federal court with 30 years of hostile, deadly, dehumanizing, demoralizing policing in the city of Cincinnati to African Americans. What no lie. That's why nobody could disagree with what we had given them. That's why we set out to collect more stories to show. Now, was it personally Iris Rowley? No, but there were many, many others. And then I was impacted by negative policing because my cousin was murdered by UC police in the year 2012. Kelly Brinson, a brother with mental health born that way, died at the hands of UC cops. And so I understand that people are going to talk about greatness. When you don't know that you should say, let's figure out, hey, Scotty, let's figure this out together. How do we do this work together? How can we fix a system that we pay into? It's not yours because you work there. You applied for a job. I'm hiring you. How do we do it in a way that it is good for all, not just for some, but for all? And so I think that when we're in a political atmosphere, that the collective for me is the one that we should be looking at, and not just at City Hall. And the conversation around Miss Hope Dudley, I've been in so many rooms with Miss Hope Dudley. One of the one of the members of Cincinnati Black United Front, Miss Peggy Hare's son was killed, and y'all know how mad we were at the police. But when her son was murdered, you know and they taught me this. Miss Dudley and Peggy Harris taught me this many years ago because I had to come to the luncheon. They said, "Iris, we want you to come to the luncheon because when someone is murdered, you become friends with the detectives in Cincinnati Police Department because they're the ones giving you the information. But who's giving them the information to help solve crimes?" And so that relationship, how police will determine how people work with them. And so that relationship is one of the things I want to talk to communities about. So while I don't need to go to City Hall with Hope Dudley at all, she is well welcomed. She is well not only at the city level, but the county level too. I know that the sheriffs make sure that the deck of cards with who killed our kids is in
Mm.
all the prisons and all the jails. I see her work being done. I talked to Rhonda, and Rhonda is a dear friend of my little sister's, and I love Rhonda, and I am so sorry that happened to her daughter on Republic Street. I met her daughter on Republic Street, and I was trying my best to help Rhonda, even in my wounded way. And I probably shouldn't have because I was extremely wounded by all the hate and the vitriol that was coming towards me for simply trying to help. Brother Dre, I wasn't even fussing about police. I was on Government Square trying to take care of the babies. I could have been doing a whole lot of lamenting about what I thought police weren't doing right, especially as it comes to the Citizens Complaint Authority. There's still things that need to be done, but we need to be able to do them for the collective. And that's what I am about. I don't think we would have just based our perception or our vote on Corey Bauman because he was Republican, because Liz Keating, Charlie Winburn is my dear friend. So I like some of them. I don't like none of them that's listening and they know don't talk that ish to me because you're gonna get a pushback. So I got two Republican friends, I think. But I don't know. Maybe they had. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Phil Heimlich ain't your
And he
Republican
would
friend, Iris?
he would never be my friend at all.
Hey, he
I
gonna
think,
want to
but I
know how he gonna want to know how many zeros you got on that new
well,
contract. Now you know he gonna ask you about that.
you know what he needs to just simply ask me. And as a matter of fact, Nathan, I'm gonna send it to you so you can read it, so folks don't waste their time requesting it to FOIA. I'm just going. I told Willie Cunningham I was gonna give it to him. I know that's another show. Excuse me, Nathan and Kevin. Can I say that?
Yeah, go ahead.
And
Yeah.
so he was really wanting to have a conversation with Iris Rowley, and I hope y'all listen to it, because there was some fact checking that had to occur. There was some back and forth, and the whole iHeartRadio folk came out like, Iris Rowley, thank you for coming. Will you come back? I said, well, I'm gonna need a contract like Willie's, and I'm gonna need one of those to be bantering back and forth, and a therapist and a bottle of bourbon because he is just a hot mess.
Right. But you make a great point, Iris. You make a great point that I heard on the show. You said, this is the first time I've been on the Willie Cunningham show.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great point because they needed to hear you on that show. It don't get no more Republican and great American than the 700. So you being on that show, I was laughing because I said he don't know what he signed up for in the process. So I'm going to give you some props. You handled Mr. Willie pretty good, and he didn't know what he signed up for to where he was saying, we got to bring you back in the process. But that's the kind of conversation that I'm talking about, that he didn't know who you were. He didn't know how you was going to present yourself besides what other people were saying until he got you at the table. So that's the type of conversations are needed, because I'm sure he had a whole different perspective of Iris Rowley before that point. And I would always say this, is that, in my career, Sister Rowley, and I'm glad to see Scotty Johnson, what's happening, that Scotty knows my frustration and even the things that I've dealt with on the police department. Running for the Sentinel president twice, and those clowns, and I gotta say it.
Scotty Johnson, what's happening?
Yeah.
Scotty knows.
Yeah, I'm getting delay on your end.
And even
Hold
things
on.
that I've dealt with on the police department. Running for the Sentinel president twice.
You still hear it?
And those clowns, and I gotta say it.
I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was. Am I good?
That was me. I'm sorry. That was me. My phone
okay.
went out, and I was trying to hear you all.
Am I back? Am I good?
You good?
Okay, yeah. So, good to see Scotty. He know my frustration about the Sentinel organization, running for president twice and losing because of me wanting to be vocal and the police issues that were constantly going on and speaking out. So, Iris, you would never hear me debate or argue with you about the police issues and things that were necessary. And when I'm one brother trying to speak out against a lot of cowards, it's a hard journey, because even right now you got to ask yourself, why are the Sentinel organizations so quiet? You haven't heard a peep out of them during this entire process, which is incredible of the things that we are seeing, and they should be having your back and being utilized in our communities. And I've said this before, and I'm going through a series even tomorrow at our church, and it's out of Matthew 5:23 and 24, and it deals, if you got anything against your brother and sister, leave it at the altar, go make it right, and then come on back. I keep believing, for some reason, Iris, we keep coming around these same circles, and I'm saying that, look, it's easier for us to connect than to keep arguing or going about the way. I'm grateful that you are in a position you're in, and I want to be an advocate to say, what can we do from this point forward? Because I don't have another 2 years, 4 years to be dealing with the issues of Iris Rowley or just even Scotty Counsel. What can Brother Dre do in the process of uniformity? and using platforms for people to get a better understanding. Because I'm going to stick by it and say I wasn't here to take sides. I'm here to save lives. And if I can be put into the game properly and use any type of influence I have to save lives, then I'm all for it on every angle that I can possibly do.
May I just respond quickly before our dear brother Scotty Johnson, who raised my husband? So I have a lot of, by way of being big brother, a lot of admiration and respect for Scotty. Can I just get 30 seconds to respond to
Absolutely,
dear
sis.
brother Dre?
Yeah, absolutely.
If that's
Can y'all
okay.
hear me?
Can
Yeah, we
y'all
can
hear
hear
me?
you.
We hear you.
Okay, go
Okay,
ahead.
great.
No, sis, go ahead,
Dre,
sis.
listen, I knew who
Thanks.
Willie Cunningham
Yeah.
was, and that it was my first time on Willie Cunningham, but not in the 700 series. So Brian, I've been on Brian Stevenson before, so I kind of know, watch them, kind of know how they operate, their modus of operation, and how they do things. It's a gotcha, make you mad, and attempt to. So yeah, no, I was prepared. He's not smarter than me. My blacker is blacker. And like I told him, and I said what I said to him, what I said to you, and it was a joke and it went over well. I told him typically when white guys talk crazy to me, I tell them my balls are bigger than theirs. Howsoever, then he asked me if I was transgender. So y'all gotta listen to the interview. Nathan, you laughing. And it was
That's what he said.
that's what he said. It was
Wow.
it was
Willie is
it's
an
what
entertainer.
he does. And so but what I wanted to do was level set Iris Rowley's name because it had taken a hit, and then reset on the work of the collaborative and issue 5. And so because I know that that's how they think and that's what they do, and instead of trying to figure out what the collaborative has done in 25 years for the city of Cincinnati, you want to make it and reduce it to we hate cops. No, we hate bad policing, we hate unconstitutional policing, we hate cops that kill unnecessarily, we hate them when they don't follow the rules, and then we hate when there is no consequence when they don't follow the rules. That's why we set all these standards in place so that as taxpayers, whether you're black or white, whether you're Hispanic, but whether you're Guatemalan, that you get a return on your investment, not just from going to City Hall asking for money or development, but your tax dollar. And we don't often think about how the tax dollar should be respected. So anytime, y'all know I'm down, it'll be the 25th year next year. I'm planning and working now on what that looks like. If anybody wants to participate and with the 25 years of collaborative agreement and then moving forward, 25 years in innovation, community supported policing, please get at me. I'm here.
Hey,
Thank y'all for
Iris.
letting me do that.
Yeah. Hey, Nathan, before Iris go, Iris, I'm just going to say this. I am so happy that they are starting to pay you. I don't think people realize how much you did just off your back and off your love for the community with no money at all. And how many times I must have cussed you out about doing it, because I think people are supposed to get paid for their work. And then when people start paying you, they want to talk about that. So I'm just saying, I honor everything you've done and everything you're doing. And I'm excited that you are now starting to get paid. You're probably still not getting paid enough, but I'm just happy that you are getting paid.
If I can, I echo that. First, just very quickly, Nathan, my dear brother, Dre, Kevin, Alandis, Iris, thank you all for this opportunity. I thank you, Nathan, for allowing me to tap in. I want to say, really, thank you, Cincinnati. Thank you to the voters of Cincinnati. Almost 41,000 votes. I'm still humbled. I am extremely humbled by that. But I take very seriously the privilege of service. I did it for 33 years as a police officer. I'm now going to be in my third term as a legislator, a Cincinnati city councilman, but I take it very seriously. And I'm unapologetic when I'm going in my capacity to serve this community. I'm unapologetic when it comes to making sure, as Dre has said a number of times, the seat at the table looks like us. I'm unapologetic when it comes to making sure that the citizens' voices are heard before developers and before big money on 4th Street. Because a lot of big money on 4th Street do not live in the city of Cincinnati. And I'm committed to that. I'm humbled because I know and I saw the money dry up. from my last two campaigns. But the people of Cincinnati spoke. I'm not acting like I'm sorry either, but I saw the money dry up the more I sided with the community. But that's fine. Let it dry up, because I got to speak truth to power. And I'm just humbled by being able to serve Cincinnati again. I love this forum, Dre, Alandis, Nathan. I love this forum, because I think this forum is more truthful and down to earth than any other forum that I see locally here. So keep doing what y'all do. Like I said, I thank you for this opportunity to say thank you, Cincinnati. I'm a phone call away. Iris, my dear sister, I'm glad you're back. Dre and Alandis and everybody has said it. That's why you don't see an entourage with me when I'm campaigning. Because Alandis' sister, like you said, people deserve to be paid for their time. I don't ask people to come out, carry Scotty Johnson signs and wear Scotty Johnson t-shirts unless I'm willing to pay them. But I'm going to say this also. I'm not a cheap guy, but I also mean this too. People want to hear from me. They don't want to hear from my t-shirt wearers. They don't want to hear from my entourage. They want to hear from me. Scotty just rolls like that. People's time is too precious not to be paid for their efforts. And Sister Iris, as Alandis said, I'm glad you are getting paid. The back pay, I don't know if they're going to pay you back for all those years or you weren't getting paid. But I just believe that too. Everybody's time is too precious. If you're with me and you got a t-shirt or you're carrying a sign, I'm paying you. But people want authenticity and people want truth. And that's the promise I made to my dear dad before he passed away. If you're going to stay in this, son, make sure you're authentic and make sure you tell the truth. So Cincinnati, thank you a million times over. I'm humbled, and I'm going to continue to serve you with everything I got.
Hey, Scotty, let me say congratulations. And, you had told me a couple months ago about the money drying up. And I think that that's a testament to what you said, your authenticity, that obviously the people felt like you were working for them and that you were being truthful. I know I can always say in every dealing that I've ever had with you has been a straight shooter. And I think that comes across and certainly came across in 41,000 votes. And so it just goes to show that it's not always who has the biggest bank that wins the day. So congratulations to you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it. And here's the one thing I hope everybody that's tuned in, listen, every last one of these people that you see on here, they're going to give you the straight truth, whether you like it or not. And that's what I respect about everybody that's on this platform. They're going to just tell you the truth.
Congratulations to you too, dear brother.
Thank you, sis.
Well,
thank you.
I'm sorry. I didn't know you were talking, David. I got two devices going, one with no sound and one with sound. I apologize.
I didn't know David was talking either. My fault. So that's how I see it. But thank you very much, y'all. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Congrats, Scotty. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathan. I really appreciate the time, brother.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Well, that's all I got. I wanted to get David in, but he's on the phone. And I really appreciate everybody's time.
I thought he was talking to us. I didn't realize he was on the phone talking to somebody else. I thought he was talking to.
I appreciate everybody. Brother Dre, Alandis, Iris, Scotty. Doors always open. Our crew wall grows a little bit today.
Can we ask Scotty a question? Can we ask Councilmember Johnson a question?
Sure.
Can we ask Councilmember Johnson a question?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm trying to act like I'm young and I could do this. Councilmember Johnson, I know you are fresh off the campaign trail, and I hope that I'm not speaking over anybody. But can you tell us what, out of your committee and as council member, what's your top 3 focuses, and then just briefly, how can we assist?
Number one, very quickly. Number one is this new curfew thing. I still need that dissected. I'm not sure exactly what the administration is talking about with that, but I need that broken down and dissected. Wednesday, because Tuesday's a holiday, Wednesday, prayerfully, somebody from the administration of law will be in committee to let me know how they're going to, what that looks like. We can slow that down until we get a clearer understanding. And I believe we need a little more input before we move forward with that. Number two, once again, coming out of committee, I got to sit down with the new director of CCA, Citizens Complaint Authority. I got to sit down and talk to him to try to see what direction that's going in, to be quite frank, because those two mesh together, CCA and the police mesh together, heading in the same direction. I think that solves a lot of questions that have not been answered. And then number three, to be quite honest, we got to keep plugging away to do something about all of these guns in our community. It is just insane. It's absolutely insane with the amount of guns. I think everybody on here knows we've been sued as a city trying to stiffen our gun laws in Cincinnati, making them tougher than state laws. So we were sued around that. So those three things, Sister Iris, I'm plugging in. We're going to keep pushing for. No, there is no magic wand. There's no one person that's going to solve it, despite the crazy stuff I heard out there on the campaign trail. And some of the people running for office tomorrow, like Donald Trump, they could solve gun violence in Cincinnati. No, you can't. You're not going to solve it tomorrow. There are too many other factors that lead into that, but we can't dodge the difficult questions. We got to attack them head on and get to the root on why people are acting the way they do. So those would be the three quick type things, Sister Iris, to be honest with you.
Good question. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. And we'll be back on Tuesday. And have a great weekend. Hope stay safe and stay thinking.
I'm going to be reaching out to you, Dre. I'm going to reach out to
John
you.
Kennedy will be on with us at Freedom Friday today. So we're going through the November cases. Just so you know, you might want to tune in. There's some consistencies that we're seeing.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Iris, I'm going to get at you.
Thanks for the opportunity, Nathan. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Nate.
Oh, absolutely. We'll be in contact.